Welcome to MGAA Conversations, our new podcast channel where we'll be discussing with an exciting number of guests all things related and topical within the ever-growing MGA community. Good morning and welcome to our latest MGAA Conversations podcast episode. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Simon McGinn, Chief Executive Officer at Dual UK. Simon, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. Thank you very much for having me on.
Great to see you. Okay, so let's get straight to it. So, Simon, it's nearly a year, I believe, since you joined Dual as CEO, moving from the company market to a large MGA. So my first question, which I'm sure our listeners will be very interested in, is share us your experiences moving from one side to the other. You know, have you enjoyed it? Were there any surprises?
Well, absolutely. Very, very happy to. Yeah, it's 11 months almost to the day, Mike. So, it's absolutely flown by. And I mean, the short answer to your question is I love it. It's been a great move from my point of view. It's given me a whole new learning curve to sort of grapple with, which has been exciting in itself. I mean, the experience from my point of view has been really positive in the sense that the companies I've been lucky enough to work for historically have always been very good. Strong underwriting ethoses, etc. And what I've found here and experienced here is, I mean, that is even more the case in Dual in terms of the people we have, the expertise we have, and that's deployed then across a breadth of products that is just second to none. I mean, we have more than 25 products. I keep having to recount them, and every time I come up with a different number, but there's a lot. And you know, the people that we have running those products and depth of expertise that they bring to it is just exceptional. So that's been a really great experience from my point of view, and that's really then combined with a real sense of ownership in terms of the way in which those entrepreneurs that have come in and decided that they had a plan and an idea about how they could build a business that we've been fortunate enough to be able to support. You know, they really do own the result. They're very accountable and they're very passionate about what they do. So the experience has been great. There's been a few surprises along the way, you know, that I think are, as you probably would expect me to say, some opportunities as I would see it. I've been quite surprised by the lack of our penetration outside of London. You know, for £1 billion MGA, we have pretty much most of our distribution done through London. We do have a wide distribution network, which is also something of a surprise. You know, we're very evenly spread across a large number of big size brokers, but equally that does tend to be focused around the square miles. So that's been pleasing. And you know, the other thing that's been surprising from my point of view is the degree of interest we have from capacity in terms of what the opportunities that they see and how we can partner with them. That has been really, you know, gratifying. From my point of view. So it's been a great year. I've really enjoyed the way in which we can think about building solutions for customers. I think of it in this way, Mike. You know, when I was where I was before as a composite, we had a particular Lego set. It had really good high quality blocks of a certain colour, but you had a certain set of blocks that you could play with. Being in an MGA, what I've realised is that you have access to everybody's Lego sets. And if you can put together a decent plan and understand what customers need, then you have the ability to build solutions that, you know, individual companies struggle to do quickly. So we have some real opportunities in that. So yeah, long and the short of it, that combined with a great team of people to work with has been a great 12 months.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, actually, the Lego seat thing. If I just pivot back to, you know, obviously your partnerships with capital, you know, coming from sort of, you know, large organisations and sitting on, you know, collaboratively on the other side of the table, talking to insurers, you know, how have you found that? You know, have you been, you know, delighted in terms of how some insurers operate and engage, or do you think, crikey, we never used to do it this way, or whatever? Because when I moved across to similarly, I found that quite an interesting debate, because you know where everything's buried, don't you, effectively, when you talk with
you sort of do. And everybody, you know, and I suppose, yes, it's been interesting because you're a little bit, I don't know whether poacher turned gamekeeper is the right phraseology. It's probably something inappropriate in some ways. But yeah, I mean, you understand what you did and how you did things. And I think you're always aware that everybody has a different approach to business, which is what makes the market so competitive. but yeah, getting an insight into how other sort of previous competitors, now potential capacity partners, work has been really, really insightful and interesting, and makes you realise perhaps some of the things and opportunities you missed when you had a certain mindset and paradigm that you were working in before. So and equally, not everything goes the way that you might anticipate, and sometimes that's really good from an opportunity point of view, and sometimes it's sort of a bit it's a bit of a reality check in terms of the way you think about certain things. But generally speaking, I think you realize the degree and the amount of options companies, MGAs, capacity providers, whomever, have to think about how they do business, and that's what makes our industry and or profession so innovative and so competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on obviously your deep underwriting expertise, which obviously is absolutely part of any good MGA's sort of DNA, and actually also you've got a number of different product lines. Are you looking into 2025? Are you seeing any particular gaps or areas you might want to fill, or other areas you want to accelerate where you may be a bit sort of where you've got that sort of bandwidth to grow?
Well, I think there's always sort of opportunities and things we'd like to do. I think largely speaking, we have a pretty good spread, but where we are interested and working at the moment, and some of this won't be necessarily big news, but cyber, we have a cyber offering. We're looking at how we build a global solution and use the fact we're in the USA, we're in Australia, New Zealand, and in Europe and Latin America means that there is a sort of certain product set that has global opportunities, and we're looking at that. So cyber is one. I mean, trade credit, we do some business in the trade credit space. I think there's an opportunity for some more renewables. We've got some embryonic thoughts and some products in development around what we can do in the renewable space. So that's always interesting. And then if you go right to the other end of the scale, from, if you like, the sort of specialty commercial product set through to our KGM business, which is specialty motor, then again, I know Kieran and the team in KGM have got thoughts and ideas about how they sort of build new schemes and new segment product offerings for there. So there's always that. I think the bigger one from my point of view in this sort of coming or past 11 months, coming 12 months, has really been about addressing that regional gap and building ourselves a presence in the regions. We have a small office in Manchester already, which we'll build out. We'll build some presence in the Midlands and Southwest over the course of the next year. And really what we're looking to do there, and what will be a new proposition from us, or refreshed proposition from us, will be a sort of a commercial combined product, which is not going to sort of mainstream. I'm not looking to compete with the big guys. We'll lose. But I think there are gaps in the market that product just enables us to build solutions for. So that's the main focus in terms of new product build. But as an entrepreneurial business, I think we're always interested in people who've got a plan, an ambition, and we have a model that enables them to bring ideas to us. We can help them build their plans, and we can go from there. I mean, we announced nothing to do with me; it was already in progress before I arrived, but. We announced in December the acquisition of International Passenger Protection, which is a fabulously niche business that some entrepreneurs have built over the last sort of 15, 20 years that provides solutions in the travel space for tour operators that really does add value to people. So I use that really just as an example of the sort of things that we're opportunistically open to. So I would hope to sort of always be talking about new things and new ideas we've got, but that relies on us interacting with the market, brokers, underwriters that have got ideas, to just see what we can bring to market, and if it fits and we've got the capacity to support it, then we're certainly willing to invest the time and effort to see those through to fruition.
Yeah, that's a good segue into sort of your views on the market dynamics in 2025. Clearly, probably the last 3 or 4 years, there's been a tailwind in terms of organic rate growth, etc. Strong rating environment. Certainly, no doubt, like you speak to your underwriting team, I speak to all our members, that rate adequacy is consistently weakening across nearly all lines, I would suggest, certainly in the commercial space. Have you got any views in terms of how you see 2025 playing out on the rating environment and any sort of risk appetite dynamics in there?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I think I'd agree with you broadly that the particularly in areas like financial lines, there's definitely been a decline in the rate adequacy and the rating environment. I think for the other lines of business at the moment, they're relatively holding firm. Suppose as an underwriting business, we would always argue that the rates aren't coming off as quickly as everybody would have us believe. It is softening, though, and I'm not naive, that market will follow a particular pattern. So I think it will be tougher. I think the biggest challenge really, Mike, is that, the tide's in when the hard market's here. And, the danger is, as underwriters, we believe our own PR and, is it really that we're that good as an underwriter and that our rating is, down to our sort of capabilities or the market? I think what matters really is your ability to risk select and, can you select risk? Can you manage a declining market and build a sustainable portfolio? And I think that's the biggest risk for us all, is not getting a bit complacent and have a hard market hangover where we think we're the best thing since sliced bread. Reality says that you've got to be constantly looking at your data, and you've got to be really, really careful about your risk selection, because as the tide goes out, it's only then you find out who's got good swimming costumes on.
Yeah, no, again, another good. And I suppose the other thing, Simon, we've been in the business quite a long time, is as to use your phrase, the tide goes out. It's that sort of forensic look at your claims model and your claims sort of proposition. And now, I would argue, that you should be looking at your claims proposition irrespective of the market cycle, but we know sometimes that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there will be much more rigor around, your peers and whatever around the claims model as the tide goes out?
I mean, I would like to think that we're consistent. That for me is, we've been around a bit, and I think consistency is the one thing that you aspire to in terms of how you do things. Hopefully, good consistency in terms of customer outcomes, in terms of your interaction with brokers and your willingness to sort of engage in discussion, particularly on non-standard or non-straightforward claims, should I say. So I'd like to think, and I'm not being complacent here because there's always things we can do to improve, I'd like to think that the claims offering we provided throughout the market cycle is consistent and good. Undoubtedly, there will be things we can get better at. And I think one of the biggest challenges I would observe for MGAs is that the variety of different claims models that you may run within your business, depending on the nature of the product, the nature of the arrangement you have with your capacity, etc., makes that a little bit harder to be certain about how you're delivering in the claims space.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that. I certainly want to make sure that we already have, in fact, an internal claims team that look after our outsourcing arrangement, look after our partners that we work with on the capacity side to make sure we're delivering good service. Certainly as we grow and get bigger, and hopefully as our brand becomes more prevalent within the regions, that's going to be absolutely critical, because you stand or fall by it. It's easier to write business and underwrite it. Actually, the proof of the pudding, as we all know, is in delivery to the customer at the point of claim. So it's an area of continual focus, Mike.
No, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, it would be remiss of me having a chat with you around if I didn't mention regulation. So, as you know, as an association, we have excellent relationships with the FCA. I had a catch-up call with them actually earlier this week. So I suppose really my question, Simon, which I know our listeners will be interested in, how do you see the regulatory landscape currently? Do you think, proportionally it is right? Is regulation getting in the way of actually innovation, new products, etc.? What's your sense? What's your barometer currently on that?
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that it continues to evolve, and I think it's in a sort of state of change to a degree. I mean, we've seen continued focus on products and on the service delivery, which is really important. Multi-occupancy buildings or gap decisions, etc. I think shows the regulators willing to get involved and bare their teeth if necessary. I think the biggest challenge that the regulator themselves recognise to a degree is sort of matching up that consumer focus and making, but recognising that one size doesn't fit all. What might be right for KGM in terms of consumer protection and making sure that people buying motor insurance policies through a broker are well looked after and the value chain is fair and equitable and transparent is not necessarily the same as the regulation that's needed for somebody working in the W&I space for risks. And I get the sense with the consultation that took place on commercial definitions during the course of this year that the regulators beginning to really get hold of that. And with the competition brief that they have, I think they're beginning to look at that. I mean, I was at the ABI thing recently, and Hannah Gerger was talking about the fact that it's not necessarily any one individual regulation that causes the problem. It's the multiple, the multiplication of those in many terms that just restricts innovation and competition. And I'm very keen from Jules' perspective to engage with yourself, Mike, and your team in terms of how do we get that message across to the regulator, because I think, as I've hopefully touched on already, I think we are the answer to many of the problems in terms of making sure that you bespoke your product, you deliver to the customer in a way that is meeting their needs, and conversely, one size product from the insurance industry doesn't fit all, and our ability to adapt and amend and specialize, I think, in the MGA space is far greater than most of the big composite companies can do. So I think we're part of the solution as much as anything else, and I think we going to need to continue to engage in a proactive way with the regulator to demonstrate our value and hopefully help influence some of the thinking that they're bringing to the party.
Yeah, I'd concur with that, Simon. I suppose I would frame it as cautiously optimistic that the conversations we, on behalf of you and our members, with the regulator Matt and his team, they are becoming very rich conversations, and they are listening, which is the main thing. I think you're right highlighting the areas you've highlighted. They will bear their teeth, and Matt in particular has been quite clear on that. If he thinks the market is not operating correctly, and they will intervene. But I think they are adopting a very encouraging, okay, we understand this, and we understand what MGAs do. We understand what you bring to the market, and yes, this seems potentially sort of over onerous in terms of what we're trying to do, and we'll continue to have those conversations with him. So it's cautiously optimistic I am, and we'll continue to work with you and other members in terms of making sure we get that message across. Right. So let's move on to next generation and talent. Again, very, very interesting theme. I think we would probably say we don't promote our sector as well as we should do. How exciting our sector is. What's your sense on where A, the sector is in terms of attracting next generation talent, and B, any particular things you're doing with your team within Jewel to ensure that you're at the front of the queue or the tip of the spear in terms of attracting that new innovative sort of individuals?
Yeah, I mean, I think the industry has long sort of struggled to get beyond the image of the insurance salesman knocking at the door, and I mean, again, it's just one of those things that nothing could be further from the truth. I think I always think of the industry as being the problem solvers for the UK economy. How do we help businesses grow? How do we sort of enable people to worry about running their business rather than the risks that they face? And we are fabulous as an industry, and I'm very happy to tag on the coattails of that, as being people that have the wit and ingenuity to solve problems for customers. So, and I think that's just, if we were selling our industry in that way, rather than just necessarily sort of selling cheaper car insurance, I think we would be better off. I think there are some really good examples. I mean, I know for a fact from various jobs, and including here, that, if you put out adverts for early talent development opportunities, whether that's graduates, A-level intakes, on apprenticeships, etc., that we are inundated with applications. So I don't think we're doing a terrible job. I think it would be fair to say that sometimes that's just people applying without necessarily having any understanding or knowledge of what the industry offers. But nonetheless, that we are able to attract interest. We ourselves are doing a lot to just try and promote ourselves as being a home for that talent, and we're very early days, but we're looking at how do we get our brand across, how do we open people's eyes to the opportunities of what could be done. But for me, I think a lot of it comes down to show, don't tell. I mean, unfortunately, that means a relatively slow burn, but getting people in on work experience. We work with the Prince's Trust. We're working with the Lloyd's Inclusive Futures sort of initiative at Howden Group and at Dual Group level to give people from very much more diverse backgrounds the opportunity to come in and see. And to talk to people who've done the job, and just to open their eyes to, what they could do. I still maintain, if you look at the industry, you think of any job you want, and somewhere in the industry there's somebody either insuring it, working with it, or actually doing it.
Absolutely.
Whether that's working with, professional sports teams, working in PR, working in risk, and working in statistics and data, or even putting satellites in space. There are roles in this industry that offer people the opportunity to get involved and bring a unique perspective to it. And I think there's enough of us all kicking around this industry, and I word of mouth is a powerful thing. So I think we just have to be not apologetic about working for the insurance profession, but actually promoting it. And I suspect most people do it, but rightly, we're not giving ourselves plaudits for success. I think we just need to keep telling that story and giving people the opportunity to come and experience it. After all, I mean, if you're in the UK, you are, in my view, in the world's most competitive insurance industry. Innovation is here writ large every day, and therefore, why wouldn't you want to be part of that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think you're right. I think if you could put just a montage of sort of different pictures, which would have maybe a sports stadium, Formula One Grand Prix, fine art or whatever, and just say, look, the insurance industry does all these things in terms of insuring this risk, and you can actually be involved in these sort of really exciting sectors. So I think it's right. But that's it sounds really some great stuff you're doing, sort of there, Simon, with both Dual and the wider community. So long may it continue, as they say.
I hope so. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So look, if we were, and I really hope we are, having this same conversation in 12 months' time, which would be then nearly 2 years of you being as dual CEO, what would you hopefully be like to be sharing with me in terms of what you've achieved over that next 12 months?
Well, I mean, hopefully we'll have grown our business and we'll have delivered very good returns to our capital and capacity providers. I mean, that's a little bit cliched, but that's what I would want to be telling you about. I mean, within that, we were telling you about the fact we've relaunched our brand. So we have a new brand image and a new brand that we are bringing to the market in early 2025. So I'd like to tell you about the success of that and how that's helped us improve awareness of our business and our proposition. And in doing so, and this sounds very grand, but in doing so, just sort of help push the MGA agenda along a little bit, because it's in my interest for everybody in the MGA sector to be successful and create a sort of a real consciousness in people's minds about us being a very legitimate way of dealing with risk and providing solutions for people. So I'd hope that our brand launch has gone well. I'd like to be talking to you about a regional presence, with two sort of growing offices in Manchester and somewhere in the Midlands and Southwest, to actually sort of start taking our existing product set to market, and how we've increased our penetration in distribution, but also bringing out that new solution to market for brokers in some of the underserved spaces that I think exist in regional P&C. Specifically, I'd like to be talking to you about our cyber proposition and how that is sort of making real headway, and alongside renewables. And then probably most of all, I'd like to be talking to you about the fact we've brought more people, more expertise, more entrepreneurs into our business, and that's seeking to drive the breadth of what we offer to the marketplace. So, and hopefully, I'd also be hoping to do so with a smile on my face and telling you it's been great fun doing it.
Fantastic. Well, a heavy but very exciting agenda going through to 2025, and the best of luck with the brand, and we'll certainly look out for it, and we'll promote it as well and sharing it through across our members. So that'll be absolutely fantastic. Simon, look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Really exciting to hear sort of how you've successfully made that sort of move across from the corporate into an MGA, and just listening to you and seeing, you can see the enthusiasm is radiating in terms of enjoying what you're doing. So again, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me and to our listeners, and have a fantastic festive break. All the best.
Thank you, Mike, and same to you. Thanks very much for having me.
Many thanks for listening. We welcome all feedback, so please get in touch with your suggestions on topics and future guests. Please don't forget to subscribe on your chosen platform so that you don't miss out.